It's about that time to grab your favorite snack and sit back and relax, because you are now listening to the MovieTime podcast with your hosts, LOWKEY Geek Renee Zalata and Blake the Wolf. Take it away, boys.
What's up? Yo, 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 it's Christmas all over again. What's going on, everybody? We are recording this leading into the weekend of the holiday Christmas time. This is going to be just to make sure that we get our stuff out there. This will be the last episode of 2023. We are going to take a break during the holiday week leading into the new year. So I'm glad that I could spend the last episode of 2023 with my partner in crime, my movie bro, my commandante. I don't know what the hell I'm saying anymore, but my buddy here, Blake the Wolf. What's going on, man?
Not your commandant.
Yeah,
and I don't even know what a commandante is.
I don't know. I'm making shit up.
Like the understudy of a commandant. But no, I'm wearing my little holiday colors because I'm about to go see my family for the holidays. And I'm glad to be spending this. I think of this as holiday season as movie season, and not just holiday movies, but yeah, there's a lot of holiday movies. We covered that last week. Yeah. But it's also just like a bunch of movies are coming out. Got some time off, and I'm going to be spending every moment of that time off watching movies that I can. So my Letterboxd numbers are jumping up right now. I'm nearing my 3,000th movie of all time.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff when I was younger. Sure. I'm sure I'm at more than that. But I went through a lot of even those. So my current plan right now is around the new year, I'll be hitting 3,000 because I'm just pumping up, all the new stuff, 2023 that I missed, which I'm excited to get into in the new year with you. But my current plan is there's 2 movies about Roberto Clemente hitting the 3,000 hits mark. One of them is like it's called Getting to 3,000, and then there's one called 3,000. And then there's another baseball movie starring Bernie Mac called Mr. 3000.
Mr. 3000, yeah.
So my plan is to go Getting to 3,000, 3,000, and then Mr. 3000 for my 3001 movie. But we'll see. I got to plan that out just right. And in the meantime, I should be getting there basically any day now at the rate I'm going. So happy holiday season, happy movie season. It's a good time to be friends and doing this with you.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like we've mentioned multiple times before, and now, I mean, there's just so many movies to catch up on, especially as we're closing out the year. Because obviously, when we come back and our first episode, like out of the gate in January, we're going to be going over our top movies of 2023. And in order for us to prepare for that, we have to make sure we watch as many movies as we
all
can.
Of them. Like 8,000 movies.
Yeah, 8,000 movies. So it's nice to be able to have at least that week off so that we could catch up and everything. And like you said, it is a perfect time to be watching movies. And there's a lot of movies out in theaters this weekend. We have releases on Christmas Day themselves with The Color Purple. So there's just so many things to talk about. But for this particular episode, we'll be talking about 2 movies. These 2 movies may not be widely released as of the time you hear this, but if you do live in a major city, you should be able to watch these 2 movies. And I'm thinking we're going to be recommending that you definitely do, and that's going to be All of Us Strangers and Zone of Interest. So we'll be talking about those 2 movies here. And the Oscars, they just announced their shortlist categories. So for those of you who don't know, the smaller categories, what the Oscars do every year is that they put out their short list of potential nominees for these categories. So it gives us a heads up of what they're considering already for these categories as far as nominations are concerned. No other movie is going to be qualified within these shortlisted categories. So we're going to be taking a look at them, and that's going to help us kind of gear up and get ready for our own Oscar draft that we're going to be doing in the new year as well. That's going to be probably like the second episode in January, which is new for us because we're gonna try a little something new and a little different and have a little bit more fun with the whole Oscar race and all that. So when that episode airs, we'll definitely explain more about all of that. But why don't we start off with All of Us Strangers? This is a movie that I guess it's safe to say that it's being released a little bit more so in more major cities. I wouldn't say it's nationwide just yet. It's more like LA, Chicago, New York, the typical cities and all that. But this is a movie that is being talked about quite a bit because of the Golden Globe nominations recently. And just within the festival circuit too. It's been a highly talked about movie. Just a quick synopsis there for those of you who may not know. One night in his near empty London Tower block, screenwriter Adam has a chance encounter with mysterious neighbor Harry, puncturing the rhythm of his everyday life. As a relationship develops between them, Adam finds himself drawn back to his childhood home where his parents appear to be living just as they were on the day they died 30 years ago. They kind of show this in the trailer, but I also do feel like this synopsis is kind of spoilerish in a way. I don't know if you knew that going into this movie, but this is kind of like a supernatural type of movie. It stars, real quick here, Paul Mescal, who plays the Harry character, and Andrew Scott, who's being talked about a lot from this movie, and is directed by Andrew. Do you pronounce his last name Hi? It's kind of.
You think I knew that? Hey. I'm going to say hi. I don't know. That's actually a really good question.
Okay, that's a question for the audience out there. Let us know. Is it hey or hi?
But I am another option.
Oh, there could be another one. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his movies, his filmography, but he is definitely well known in the indie circuit. And I remember when I briefly mentioned him and this movie in one of my videos, I did get some comments about their love of his films and how All of Us Strangers is a nice level up of his directing. So when I saw this movie, I wasn't sure what to expect because, again, I'm not familiar with the director at all. But I do love me some Paul Mescal, and I think he is a brilliant young up and comer. As far as Andrew Scott's concerned, I'm not that familiar with his work. I know he's done. I think he's known for more TV stuff like Fleabag, Sherlock. I believe he was in those two series. He was in 1917 Inspector, I believe, also, but I can't remember for the life of me what roles he played. But with all that out of the way, brilliant performances from both. I mean, very magnetic, dynamic performances. Very, very strong chemistry between the two of them. Very sexy and seductive chemistry between them two, which is really, really amazing to see on screen. Also really loved seeing Claire Foy and Jamie Bell, who play the parents of Adam, played by Andrew Scott. And basically the thing that kind of interested me and kind of fascinated me about this movie is that when the movie starts, obviously he's living in a city, right? In it looks like London there. But you don't really know what time frame you're in. They don't really make a lot of references to what year it is, what period it is. All you know is that he's writing a story. He's a writer, and his story seems to be catered around the 80s. He has like a fascination with the 80s. When he visits home, we see his parents, but we're not told yet that they're ghosts, right? Or they're visions of his imagination or whatever. But everything is stuck in the 80s. Everything around the home is 80s centric. The way they dress is 80s centric. And because that's his last memory of them when he was a kid in the 80s. And obviously he's an adult now and all that, but it still feels like you're not sure when this time frame is. It's kind of a unique scenario where it's like it's up to interpretation as to where he really is, what's reality, what's also imagination, or what's supernatural and all that. Before we get into the major reveal that happens in this movie, let's talk about like kind of that whole dynamic between him and his parents. And kind of the theme that I got out of this is, when something traumatic happens to us in our life, sometimes we have a hard time of letting that go. And I feel like this was definitely a moment in his life that he really could not get out of his head, especially being a gay man who never came out to his parents. And I feel like that was one thing that he always had in his mind. And it showed when he had conversations with his mom and his dad about his sexuality. And it's one of those things where it looks like as an adult, he really wished he had that moment where he could talk to his parents about all of that. And, that's hard to think about, not being able to do something like that and having such a traumatic experience. But I do feel like most of that is also led by being more of a sheltered person. And then when he sees this new guy in his building, Paul Mescal's character, he's getting a sense of being open, being more free, kind of trying to be more of yourself. Nothing wrong with that, right? And I feel like this guy was trying to help him and lead him to living a life more that way. So without going into what's the next chapter in that, Blake, for you, how did you feel about the setup and the background and kind of like the back and forth we were getting between Andrew's character and his parents? And what were some of the things that you were getting out of the story up until a certain point? And then we'll talk about that afterwards.
I'd heard awards chat about this movie. I saw the cast, saw some images, and I just knew I don't want to know anything about it. Avoid trailers, avoid any info. I didn't even know it was directed by Andrew High, is what I'm seeing online. Sure. Could be wrong.
Okay.
But I'd seen his movies Weekend before. And at least in my mind and how I saw it, it's like a classic 21st century gay movie. One of those just heartbreakers, like made me cry hardcore when I saw it. Mm-hmm. And I'd known that I may have had a better idea of what was going on. I'd also at some point heard this is the saddest movie of the year. And so I went into it expecting that, but I didn't know plot wise who, what, anything. And was very surprised by that, to where I'm literally sitting there trying to solve the mystery, the supernatural mystery of, even early on, there's a couple things that give you the feeling that they're his parents. Like, you decided to visit home, or we haven't seen you in a while, and you look so different, or whatever, but not explicitly. So I was like, there is also a thing in the queer community of like the found family and the family you choose and being taken in. So I was like, maybe that's kind of what's happening. And maybe there's some like threesome energy. Maybe there's some other, I couldn't figure it out. And then over time, like they're just calling him son. And it's becoming more clear. And you also know he's writing that movie about his folks. So then we are going into, it's not Eternal Sunshine in any way. What I liked about it was Eternal Sunshine creates a scientific device to go back and forth with memory and regret and the past being in the present. This one, it's not. It's just memory. And the director is kind of relying on the audience to come along as this person goes back and forth. And sometimes it's through a dream. Maybe it's always through a dream. Sometimes maybe it's through memory. But that was, to me, exciting once I pieced it together as a possibility for a movie. You see flashbacks in movies. It's rare you see them interacting in the same type of way, where the person is, in some ways, like this whole movie could be a dream or none of it could be a dream kind of thing. It could just be him imagining. It could be his script. It made me almost think that the director was writing a movie and then had some experiences traveling, goes, oh, that's actually the movie itself. Mm-hmm. But overall, that concept, I thought it was a very clever manipulation in ways that some movies are more overt with that kind of thing. And instead, this one, it was more seamless, where he's having a hard time reconciling his past and his present, his trauma, and who he is today, and who he wants to be and how he wants to live. So overall, I found it to be very successful and affecting. And just on my theater experience, saw it, that would have been the first night it came out, I think, in the city. There would have been some random screenings before, but it wasn't very heavily attended. Maybe like it was decent for the kind of movie, kind of exactly what I'd expect. Maybe 20, 30 people, like that. but the amount of tears was about 1 and 1. Like basically at some point I'm just hearing tears all throughout. It was very effective how it was done. The acting was incredible. I'm still not sure overall how much I loved it as a movie, but I know I felt it, and it in some ways it felt overly melodramatic, and relying a little too much on the like, oh, I'm going to make you cry now.
Yeah.
But it was effective. It worked, and I don't know if I necessarily can even necessarily categorize it as or analyze it as a movie as much as like an emotional product and packaged as a film. That said, it is a movie and it worked very well at putting me through those experiences with the main character. So I feel like that aspect of it especially was a success. Whether or not it was made it a successful movie on its own terms, I'm not on the terms of cinema, I'm not sure, but on its own terms, it was very effective.
Yeah. It definitely was sweet and sad. It was like a good mixture of the two. But you're right. I do agree with you where I feel like whether it was on purpose or not, the director really just wanted to poke emotions out of us and wanted to get us to react to what was happening. Because Adam's character is so traumatized and it just feels like nothing goes right for him. He's like a tortured soul in a way. And that comes into more fruition the closer he gets to Paul Mescal's character. They go clubbing and they're falling in love and they're having a relationship, only to then realize that, wait a minute, this guy is not real, because it gets to a point where he finds out that he committed actually suicide in his apartment. So basically, if we rewind back, when the movie started, there was an incident in the building where the fire alarms go off, and they kind of have like a brief encounter in the building, so to speak. He tries to invite Paul Mescal tries to invite himself over to have a drink. Obviously there's an attraction there, and Adam's just like, no, I'm good. Kind of like very shy and just standoffish, because that's kind of the character and where he was at that moment before he started letting himself open up and everything. What we come to find out is that Paul's character actually committed suicide that night, because it looked like he was having a little cry for help, and Adam's character was not, he was like, I guess, the last attempt to save himself or to just prevent him from thinking more about what he wanted to do. And I think that was so tragic when that revelation came about, and it just going through the motions with Adam's character as he realizes this, and as he's still trying to comfort in the idea that this guy is still around, that he loves this person, that this person allowed him to open up and become the person that we find him to be at the end of this movie, is very sad and tragic. And again, it just forced a lot of emotions out of everybody, including myself. But at the same time, I also felt like once the mystique was gone, once we knew, okay, so his parents aren't alive, this dude's not alive. So it's either he's seeing ghosts or he's having these things in his head, right? Or he's like manifesting these kind of imaginations or whatever it is. Once that mystique is gone, it made me kind of think like, so what is the real point of this movie? Like what is this movie really trying to portray? Now, I get it. It's kind of like a coming of age type of movie for the main character, because he's learning to become a better person. He's learning to accept himself and to be more open and free of that. Once he gets the ability to get the trauma out of his head, just being able to close past incidences and reconcile with his parents, even though they're in his head or whatever. And realizing that he can be more open and more free because of what this, Paul Mescal's character is teaching him to be and kind of encouraging him to be and all that. But with those people not being there, really, what was this movie really about? Or what was it trying to say? Now, I'm not saying it was bad. It's kind of confusing to me. And I was just like, okay, weird and interesting, very emotional. But at the end of the day, like you said, I don't know how effective this movie was for me as a whole. Once that mystique is already out of the picture, and once you kind of clear that out of your head, am I off a bit, or like what were your feelings once you actually saw that revelation happen?
I mean, the first thing I'll say is it feels kind of like those movies that are a puzzle movie or a whodunit, in a way that once you've seen it, you won't be able to enjoy it the same way a second time. Maybe a second time, but maybe never a third. And a second time you go, oh, this is what's actually happening. And I didn't understand that the first time. But if so much of the movie is effectiveness is in the manipulation, once you're ready for it and know how you'll be manipulated, I'm curious. I kind of want to see it in that light, without having to go through and potentially cry my eyes out again. So I'm not sure if I'll ever even get there.
Right.
It rides that line where, oh, it's a fun mystery, and also it's so devastating, I might change the channel if it's on. I'll have to see how it ages within me. I'll also say this: when you explained it just now, I had that as a possible understanding. I did not feel that when I watched it. I did not know that that the whole thing had been made up. And I'm going to go through and read other people talking about it. I'm not going to argue against that, because textually that seems to be what it's saying. People are talking about the twist ending and that development and how it happens right at the end. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Yeah, sure. Textually, that's what it is. Let's just go with that. That's not what actually happens in the movie. In the movie, he has a relationship. And even if it's in his head, we see it. He experiences it. He's affected by it. And there is the funny thing people will do when they're dating, talking to someone. I've done it. I'm pretty sure in some way everyone has. They make up a whole little life. And sometimes they'll get ahead of themselves and they'll go, oh, well, what would our children look like? And what would the wedding be? Would we be able to, my parents get along with them? And dating someone for a little bit, and you can imagine being old with them. And in a way that actually happens, but it's in a burst of a second in your mind. Similarly, with memory, we can live a whole nother world that never actually exists, because our memories can be false completely. They can be just a limited perspective. There can be key details missing. We'll never actually have the full 360 view of anything we ever experience. So the movie is doing an interesting job of going into like an imagining the future of what it could be, with that partner, going into the past of conversations he wished he'd had with his folks. And in some ways there's things where like he's also dealing with the reality of his parents, and maybe it's an imagined conversation, but there's also real things that they're talking about that happened, or reliving memories together with his imagined living frozen in time parents.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and say, from my understanding of the movie, it's not that I reject that textual explanation that it was all in his head with that relationship. I'm going to go and say both movies exist in a way. He did have that relationship with the person within the movie, even if it's just in his head. It would be kind of like saying in The Matrix that Keanu Reeves' character never actually learned Kung Fu, right? Like, just because it happens in a burst in your mind doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. And when we saw it and lived it so intensely, at least for the movie's hour 45, an hour and 40 minutes, it definitely happened. And the last 5 minutes can say, which it doesn't even say it so explicitly. I want to say there's still some room for debate, where there's another way you could interpret it, where the beginning is like a false bottom of a memory, or he did have the relationship, but he blocked it out. He had the relationship, but the person died too soon. So some of it's real, some of it's fake. I don't know that it explicitly says, oh yeah, that's right, we never ever met. And I turned you away that first night and you were lonely and you died. It does, like, with some context clues, but I don't know that it's so explicit that you couldn't possibly interpolate other possibilities. Like, they had dated and then he came by and he turned him away after they'd broken up or something like that. I don't know, but I'm curious on a rewatch if it says very explicitly.
How about we put another spin on it? Let's put the supernatural spin on it. What if they were ghosts? What if these are entities that he saw afterlife entities, right? That he had interactions with and relationships with, because the parents, even though they're stuck in that time when they passed away, they see him as an adult. They don't see him as a little boy, right? They have conversations about what he's doing with his life, who
So
he's
they're the
dating,
ghosts, and
right?
he's in the real world. Or maybe you
Yeah,
and I are ghosts
that
watching
could
a
be very
movie.
true too.
Maybe
Yeah,
the movie doesn't. Maybe the movie itself is a ghost. The thing we're not addressing is that this is a fucking Christmas movie.
it is a Christmas movie. Yes, it's
Last week
that's
we talked about
yeah.
Christmas movies that aren't Christmas movies, but are definitely should be included as. This one has a whole fucking Christmas nostalgia scene,
A whole
putting
scene.
ornaments on the tree, and he gets all
Yeah,
the way on the ground, like when a little
yep.
kid is putting on the ornaments on the bottom.
Hmm.
This is very Christmas Carol in a way, of the ghost of Christmas past and
Yeah,
future, and in some
yeah.
ways present. Like, you could just tell me that this is this dude's take on Christmas Carol, but just like a gay melodramatic version of it, and I'm into it. In that way, right? Like, It's a Wonderful Lifestyle or Christmas
Hmm.
Carol. None of it actually, like, he's going into the past. He is having, this is what your life could be like or would be
Right,
like.
right.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that's the interpretation of the movie. It is Christmas Carol. It's just another take
Okay.
on it. I'm not kidding. There's no other explanation, really.
I mean,
Right?
I like that. I like kind of
It's
like
makes
this.
more
This is
sense
a
than anything
new,
else.
like a different modernization take on the classic story Christmas Carol, just done very differently.
Yeah, it's
And
that, or
with
he's in gay purgatory or something that just doesn't really make sense
right,
to
because I
me.
was gonna say, but with a sadder, messed up ending, really. Because at the end of the day, the movie basically ends with both him and Paul Mescal in bed, right? Just kind of like hugging it out. And, Andrew's character, Adam, comforting Paul. And it kind of just fades into like oblivion. And there's this like little like crazy like spacey montage at the end of the movie and everything.
It's beautiful, honestly.
I
I
mean, it
like
is
that.
very
Did it work for
beautiful.
you? The space thing?
No, it worked. It's just it left me just sitting there, just saying, okay, what did I just watch? Like, what am I trying to take away from this? And not saying you have to take away something all the time with every movie you watch, but it was just one of those things where
Asking you to sit in the theater and kind of contemplate or feel.
yes,
Like when they
yes,
have a 3-4 minutes montage at the end.
yeah.
There's a few movies I'm thinking of that do that. One that kind of comes to mind is like Babylon or something.
Oh yeah, with the crazy
Zone
like montage of Hollywood film and all that. Yeah,
of Interest even has like a long period at the beginning
yeah,
and
that's
end
right. Yep.
of just black screen. And
Hmm.
in some ways they're like asking you to sit in that
Like stew in it.
discomfort or
Yeah, stew in it for a
marinate.
bit. Yeah.
This one I liked that ending, and I don't think I have much more theorizing about the movie, but the ending itself is in a way like we're all stardust. There's this miracle of human connection.
Mhm.
There's this way we're all constellating and we're all our own universes, but we're all separate and stagnant and unmoving, but we're like far away, but in the same universe as these other things that are affecting us. I thought that was a lovely way to handle the grand emotionality of the movie. The way I saw it, at least, was these two people, really one's a ghost, I guess, in bed, zooms out so far it kind of becomes like a little pinpoint of light.
Yeah.
And there's a few metaphors there with like the pinpoint or like you're looking through, but then you start to see the other, and then of course there's 3, so like, okay, it's the mom, dad, and there's just so many, and it's this like we're all connected, the humanity of it all.
Yeah.
The like universality of human connection and how complex it can be. So that's what I kind of took away when I was sitting there, but I was also like wiping away tears from all the
Sure.
the things I've experienced prior.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a bittersweet ending, and it's so sad, but
What's
at
the sweet part, you sicko? What did you
I
like
said
about it?
bittersweet.
Yeah,
That
bitter.
was
Yeah. Where's the sweet? Bittersweet is like a combination of bitter and sweet.
well, because
Where's the
it's
sweet part?
it's sweet because because of his
I'll give
experiences,
you that.
even
Yeah. Okay.
he can be more comfortable with himself, because at the beginning of the movie you could tell he's not a comfortable dude. He's a guy that's kind of depressed. He's like
Closed off.
he's closed off. he can't write whatever he's trying to write. He has this mental block and everything, and all he can do is constantly just try to go back home and spend time with his dead parents. My
he
big
literally
question
lives in an empty building that's like closed off from the world.
Yeah.
Hell of a metaphor there. And that's the first part of the script, and maybe the only part of the script we see is it says something like interior building or something, exterior building.
Right.
I think that Christmas Carol explanation makes more sense too. It's the idea that he would look at his computer, start writing this script. The rest of the movie is that script kind of. Mm-hmm. And there's these universes he's creating between going back in memory and going to and it's as if he's sitting there imagining that guy who came over who died, what would happen if I'd actually let him in, and would I? And he's getting to go back into the present world and saying, I want to choose to live in this universe more, with more light and more fully, more freely.
Yeah, I also question, like, since we're going on that this type of what is he seeing, what is he manifesting? It gets to a point where he wants to kind of quote unquote introduce his boyfriend to his parents, but then when he goes back to the home, no one's there to answer. So is it because prior to that he was already he was already able to reconcile with them, that they disappeared and that is no longer a lingering thing? Like, what was the purpose of them not being there anymore? And he has he can no longer go back to that point.
I mean, that's the reality in a way. There's a thing where you live in that memory for too long, or you process it, or you grieve it, you move on. I think part of it is, if you want to move forward with your life in the way that we're saying, like he wants to open himself up more freely, he can't be constrained in the past.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that moment too was very sad also. It's just like, he was so happy being able to do that. And then you could see him just...
He ordered the family-size meal and they weren't hungry? He has to eat it by himself, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just the idea of letting go. Like, okay, if you want to be open-hearted, you have to let go. Sense. And even if he says he doesn't want to, he needs to, kind of. And there is a thing where, in human psychology, where we are burdened by things and we have a hard time letting things go, even if they're bothering us. And especially traumas and devastation and heartbreak or whatever. It's like, okay, I know I'll be better and I'll be freer if I get this chip off my shoulder, but I don't want to and I can't. And what it's part of my identity. It's baked into me. And so for him to move on, he has to kind of like fight that urge to stay living in the past, literally. Right. And
that makes sense. All right. So with all that said, let's talk about kind of awards chances and all. Do you strongly feel, and it just is based off of the chatter going around right now, the Golden Globes and all that, what are the chances of Andrew Scott getting nominated here for Best Actor?
Help me out. Are there only 4 actors in this movie?
Yeah.
Like properly, other than extras and shit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's rare.
Yeah.
This could be a play. I would love to see that.
And Paul Mescal too. Like, he was amazing in this film, and he's had a pretty good year with this. Foe, I think, is another good display of his acting prowess.
He's also just in the After Sun. Is that what it's called? After Sun. Last year's movie where he gets nominated.
Right. He was just coming out of that. Right. Yeah.
He's having a fuck of a year. Hell
yeah.
Just like a hot indie darling, going, getting famous in that way and having hot roles after another. Sometimes someone will have a big blow up like a Timothée Chalamet, and then you're just like, okay, we're going to wait 3 years before this pays off and those movies are released. Yeah. And in his case, it's like he just had 3 bangers in a row once that moment hit, and maybe others I'm not thinking of. But I'm going to go and say Andrew Scott should be like a top 10 contender. And in an ideal world, maybe nominated, but you're looking at the main ones that are almost locked are Bradley Cooper, Maestro, Leo DiCaprio, Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, and then there's a bunch of others that are going to be. And I'm looking at a short list here. This isn't all off memory. Come February, it will be. God help us.
Oh my God.
Coleman Domingo, Paul Giamatti, Anthony Hopkins. That's curious to me. I guess I have to see that. Barry Keoghan, Saltburn. I don't see that happening. Joaquin Phoenix, Napoleon, don't see that happening. Joaquin Phoenix, Beau is Afraid is interesting, but probably not. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. So let's go ahead and just lock in. I'm going to do this out loud. Bradley Cooper, Leo DiCaprio, Cillian Murphy. After that, the other ones that are in that strong contenders list, Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Michael Fassbender, Gael Garcia Bernal, Andrew Scott, David Ash. Okay, honestly, I'm going to go and say it. I'm putting him on the list of should get nominated. Partially, this movie's just now coming out, might get some momentum going. I'm curious how it'll do with some of the other awards. Mm-hmm. But also, there's this thing that happens like Christoph Waltz. It happened with, there's other folks it's happened to. Olivia Colman, they get one nomination and they just start fucking banging them in. Yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked if folks were like, I'm thinking Paul Mescal. Damn it. We're on Andrew Scott now, and then we'll talk about Paul Mescal afterwards. Okay. But for Andrew Scott, take away the part about like that being their first year. For Andrew Scott, I'm gonna go and say he's like a strong contender, but throw in Coleman Domingo, Jeffrey Wright, a couple of the others. I think he's like a 6, 7, 8 spot in the list, and I don't think he quite gets it. What do you think, just on Andrew Scott alone?
I think it's going to be close. I think he is going to get edged out by Jeffrey Wright. Even to be honest with you, I think with what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, Paul Giamatti, a lot of people are talking about him and his role in the holdovers.
And they love, the Oscars have loved him and have also missed him before, so he might get one of those in a few different ways. And that movie probably isn't going to get a ton else, so it might be I think there's a few things going for him in that.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not saying he doesn't deserve it. I just think this is a pretty stacked year in this category, because his performance was definitely strong. I don't know. There's a part of me that I know I'm going to be wrong, but I don't see Leonardo DiCaprio getting nominated.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he wasn't the strong presence in that movie. It was really more Lily Gladstone, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone's getting nominated from that movie, it's Lily Gladstone. Some people are, I don't know if you'd think De Niro or DiCaprio have higher chances, because now we're about to talk about supporting actor with Paul Mescal. But I don't disagree with you personally, but knowing the Academy, he is a fucking shoo-in for a nomination.
Yeah.
That's just my guess.
Now. And again, I won't be surprised if that happened. But if it was me voting, I would not put him as a nominee, because for me, we just named a whole bunch of other actors who was much stronger than he was in that movie.
And personally, I wouldn't put De Niro in either, even though some people are acting like he was so amazing in that movie.
He was
that
good,
said, now we're talking supporting, and a lot of folks have De Niro as a lock. Ryan Gosling, a lock, I think.
Sense.
De Niro, Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, a lock. And then I'm just going to start rattling. Do you disagree with any of those?
No.
As far as not who you put. So we got 4 now. So the 5th spot, I'm just going to start naming names. And I'd like to think Paul Mescal is in this list, and maybe one of the people I mentioned isn't. We get surprises here, like Brian Tyree Henry last year getting in was kind of a shock. It's not impossible that one or two of the ones we just named don't get in. But Willem Dafoe, Poor Things, Matthew Good, Ford's Last Session, Jacob Elordi, Saltburn, Tommy Lee Jones, The Burial, Tahar Rahim, Napoleon. Honestly, none of those feel that strong to me. Maybe Dafoe is the strongest. And after that, Ben Affleck, Air, Matt Bomer, Maestro, Matt Damon Jr., Oppenheimer, maybe. Josh Magaro, Past Lives. I like that one. No. Charles Melton, put him in the top list. This must be an old list I'm looking at. So then Charles Melton, 5th spot. Paul Mescal, 6th.
Yeah.
Jesse Plemons, no. Dominic Sessa, Holdovers. I like that a lot. That'll probably be on my list, but probably not the Oscars giving it to him. Glenn Thurman, Rustin, Jeremy Allen White, The Iron Claw. I'm going to go ahead and just say Paul Mescal is a 5, 6, maybe 7 spot.
Right. That sounds more realistic to me, and probably what I would probably be. If it was me and you voting, I would probably have that as like my list there. As far as like who was for Iron Claw, you said it was
Jeremy Allen White.
Okay.
Zac Efron, yeah.
Okay.
the bear guy.
Right.
Also saw
Right.
him in Fremont. He had a nice supporting role in that, but I don't think anybody saw that movie this year. It was a
Right.
indie fave for me. I'm just saying that because it helps sometimes if you have two good roles in the same year, which some of these folks do. Let's go ahead and I'll say it this way. If the Oscars aren't bogged down by their love of movie history, by their love of themselves, by their love of like legacy actors, don't include Defoe in the short list. Don't include De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't think Downey Jr. did that great of a job in Oppenheimer. I feel like he did Downey Jr. level work, but not necessarily anything. He's great, but I didn't find that performance mind-blowingly good. Maybe on a third watch, fourth watch, I will. But so in my mind, I personally would throw Paul Mescal and Charles Melton in that list. Maybe round it out with Giamatti. But in a world where it's like who the Oscars would vote for if they weren't bogged down, I think Paul Mescal's in there. And even right now, I might put him in that list. I might unlock one of the people, TBD. Mm-hmm. Let's say, I mean, the idea that they wouldn't nominate De Niro feels surprising to me, but maybe Ruffalo's off the list, right? So then you get room for Melton and Mescal. We'll see.
Again, I think it all depends on how the Academy feels about Poor Things. I really think that's going to be a main factor there. And I think what we talked about in the last episode is it could be give or take, really. They could either really love it or they could just be like, I don't know, just kind of like the whole too much sex thing. And all that, just I don't know where this is going to fall, really. And
similarly, like there's a possibility that Killers of the Flower Moon and the politicization of it gets it thrown out in at least for the DiCaprios and De Niros. Mm-hmm. I don't know that that's the case. I don't have much reason to think the Oscars will do that, but give it some bad press. Someone does a bad quote. De Niro has a bad moment saying something which he doesn't really talk much. Good for him. DiCaprio will play it smart, but let's just say someone gives a quote or Scorsese goes on a rant and just like, oh, okay, that's a bad look to nominate that. Then that'll open up a few spots throughout, other than Lily Gladstone, which they're all kind of throwing their weight behind, which is smart, of course, in a cynical way. And I honestly do think she's the most deserving just based on performance alone.
Yeah, I mean, based off of like all the movies we've seen so far this year, I mean, she's definitely like one of the strongest performances I've seen from a lead actress. I'm going to throw a name out here too. Now, you haven't seen The Iron Claw, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm kind of nervous about that one.
So when you do, just pay attention to Harris Dickinson. I'm going to throw his name in the ring there. He plays one of the brothers.
Okay.
Very strong performance, in my opinion.
Oh, fucking Triangle of Sadness guy.
Yeah.
The model. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Love him.
Very strong in this movie. I liked him in Triangle of Sadness, but this one, wow. Really good. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Jeremy Allen White was good. Zac Efron was fantastic. But this guy, Harris Dickinson, I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he gets into the conversation somehow.
Also, give me Glenn Howerton and Blackberry. Let's get fucking weird with it, y'all.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
Well, in January, we'll do our own list, but I was mentioning earlier, like I'd probably include Donnie Yen from John Wick 4. But I mean, we know the Oscars aren't going to do that no matter what, so that's another conversation.
What is your rating for All of Us Strangers on Letterboxd?
4.5. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's kind of close to a 4. Closer to 4 than 5. I might change it to 4, especially if I rewatch it and go, oh yeah, this doesn't work without the little magic twist. Right. But it affected me and was so good at what it was doing that I gave it 4.5. And on a rewatch, that could even drop lower if I feel like, oh, this was manipulative and overly sentimental. Right. If it's too soggy on the next rewatch, that could drop precipitously. But we'll see.
Okay. I gave it a 3. Yeah. Again, I didn't hate it, but I didn't overly like it or love it like that. But I'm not discounting on how emotional it made me feel through the movie. But I also do feel like you were trying to get me to cry. You were trying to get me to to feel all these emotions and all that. And there are also certain parts of the movie I thought were too long. So
Pretend that you weren't riddled with latent homophobia. Do you think you would give it a 4?
Nice. Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
talk about your bigotry bias nearly enough in your ratings of movies.
That's true. We should let's iron that out now. Like that. Let's get it all out in the open. Let's iron claw it out. But yeah, we're curious as to what I think one of the reasons why maybe not a lot of people went to see it when you went, it's not a lot of advertising for this movie. Not a lot of like really major push in a more general sense. But I do feel like this movie should be watched by more people, just to get more eyes on it. Mainly because of the performances in it. So we're very curious as to those of you listening and watching. All of Us Strangers, is that a movie you're interested in seeing? Let us know your thoughts and all that stuff in the comments of this episode. With internet privacy being such a huge deal these days, it's more important now than ever to protect yourself. With Surfshark VPN, you can easily hide your IP address and encrypt all data that you send and receive. You can easily switch regions to other countries in the world. This means not only your true IP address and identity is masked, it also means that you can get around any annoying geolocation locked video content. You can truly unlock the full potential of your streaming services, and for me that's important since I need to research or catch up on movies that may not always be available in my region. With Surfshark VPN, I can easily switch to any region like the UK, and this problem simply goes away. And now I can watch Hulu content directly on Disney Plus or check out some movies on Netflix that I can't otherwise watch here in the US. I also do a lot of banking and account management online, and by using Surfshark VPN, I feel extremely safe and secure doing so. Surfshark VPN also allows you to connect to unlimited devices simultaneously on a single account, and this includes Windows devices, Linux, Android, iOS, Amazon TV, and much more. To take advantage of the current Black Friday deals that they have, make sure to scan the QR code that you see on the screen now, or click on the link in the description below to secure yourself a great deal that gives you a subscription discount over 80% and up to 5 additional months for free. And if you think it sucks, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, which will give you plenty of time to try out Surfshark VPN risk-free. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but before we continue, I wanted to quickly talk about Bulletproof Coffee. Bulletproof Coffee is my favorite coffee of choice to start off my mornings with. Why? Because it's clean coffee. What does that mean? Well, one, there are no chemicals in it. Why? Because they go through this multi-step process of making sure that all of their beans are fully clean and free of any chemicals, so that when you get the beans delivered to you, it is the pure beans, the pure coffee, the goodness that you've been wanting, the taste, the flavor, and the nutritional value as well, without worrying about any added chemicals or anything else put into the mix there. It also doesn't have that weird acidic taste that some coffees give you. I don't know how about you, but for me, some coffees kind of give me that weird sensation in my stomach, makes me a little burpy, and it kind of drags me down a little bit instead of really waking me up, which is something that I need from my coffee every day. Bulletproof also offers a lot of keto-friendly snacks and supplements, anything that you need to kind of add to your everyday nutritional needs, add to your diet, and pretty much transforms the way you feel every day. So for a limited time, if you use this code that you see on the screen right now, LOWKEY GEEK, all caps, one word, you can get 15% off your order. So what is it better than that, right? Check out the link in the description of this episode. Use this code, get yourself your discount, and make your mornings a little bit more bulletproof with Bulletproof Coffee. Now, back to the episode. Let's move on now to a more lighthearted movie in the Zone of Interest.
Speaking of hatred towards other people that Renee
Speaking
feels
of
in his
bigotry,
heart.
Yeah, Zone of Interest. So, a little behind the scenes here.
We just talk about like Elementals or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle first, or like something nice. My heart is
let's just dive into like the craziness of this.
Here we go.
So behind the scenes, Blake and I, we actually met up on Tuesday, and we actually did a trivia night thing that we used to always do, and with a mutual friend of ours. And we actually briefly spoke about this movie, and we were actually enjoying this conversation. So I'm glad that we can actually finally talk about this now. One of the things I mentioned to you is that I went into this movie not knowing a damn thing about it. Yeah. Like I just
Yeah.
read I remember I read the title and I saw who was in it. And when I saw Sandra Hüller was in it, I was like, oh, she's in this other movie I'm seeing, Anatomy of a Fall. So I was like, she must be a big deal this year. So let me go see what this movie's about. Plus, it's directed by Jonathan Glazer. And I'm kind of a low-key fan of his, like especially when it comes to like Under the Skin. Like I was a big fan of that movie. So I wanted to see, okay, knowing how kind of out there his directing can be, I'm very curious as to where he was going to go with this. I had no idea.
Wait, would you say you did not see the plot coming?
I did not see the plot coming. No,
you did not.
Let's just say
you did not see it coming.
I did not see it all unraveling in front of my eyes.
That's a wild way to watch this movie.
Yeah,
I kind of wish I'd had that experience. I want to hear about it.
Let's just say I was sitting there, and the movie starts off beautifully, where you just have a family by the lake having a nice summer day, and kids are running around, and blah blah blah. This and I could tell it's kind of like a period piece because everyone's wearing kind of like the old swimwear and everything. And then they go back home, and little things started popping up I started questioning. I'm like, okay, first of all, why does everything seem to be so gray? I'm noticing the color tone is very like dull, right? I'm like, all right, that's an interesting choice. Why is there concrete fences around the house? Like, that's kind of odd. And then the next morning comes around and father just shows up in a Nazi uniform. And I'm like, oh.
Confirm, you definitely knew that was a Nazi uniform the first moment. Yes.
Oh, I could tell right away. I was just like,
okay.
Yeah.
Context clues for sure. And then you see the SS on there.
I was like, full on. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is this?
Oh.
Now.
Oh.
I was like, okay, so it's a Nazi family. But then I started to realize where they were.
Okay.
And
once you're piecing together on context clues.
Yeah, because I started seeing the people in the striped pajamas, the helpers that they had. I started seeing the barbed wire on the concrete fence.
Can we just, maybe that word is not the right word to use, but I see in your head, you're like, oh yeah, that's just staff. Huh.
Well, because, they were helping with the bags. They were helping with the bags. They were helping with the boots like that. So I thought they were
slaves. I don't know what the correct term is, but yeah.
Yeah. And then you slowly start hearing stuff in the background. You hear like steam, or you hear a furnace going off, or like if you're next to a factory and you hear the chimney blowing out smoke, you start hearing those type of noises. And then you start hearing, then the best part, or worst part, I should say, is at night when they're in the bedroom and you see the ember glow coming in through the window. And then there'll be flashes of screaming you hear sometimes in the background, like during the day and all that. I'm like, oh shit, we're in Auschwitz.
No, we're not in it. We're as close. We're about one tiny concrete wall away.
Not in it per se, but we are there. And then you start learning.
I mean, you can see. Yeah.
Yeah. We start learning that this family is a big deal in the Nazi regime. And this is like the leader, the head of the camp. And then you start seeing more stuff and more like things going on. Like when she gets the fur coat and she starts posing with it and she's finding things in the pocket. And it's like, oh, someone's lipstick. Oh, someone's jewelry. I'm just like, wait a minute. The son is playing with gold teeth. I'm just like, wow, this is freaking terrifying. This is probably the most terrifying movie I've seen this year, where it's just so awful to know where you are in that moment. But at the same time, you're watching a film really about a family and kind of like a day in the life of this family. And it's almost as if the movie is trying to make you like this family or kind of just relate to the family, because like any other family, the mom is trying to take care of the kids. The mom wants the best for their children and for the family. The guy, the father, he's trying to do what's best for the family, and he's trying to move up in his world of rank, and everything, and he's trying to do all these things. But then you see him sitting down in a room where they're talking about new furnaces and I'm just like, this is terrifying. This is just terrible, just seeing all this happen. But before we talk more about the movie, you obviously walked into this knowing more than I did. So how was it for you as you were watching like the first half of this movie, as everything was kind of just displayed in front of you on the big screen there?
I knew what we were getting into going into it, more or less. I'd heard conflicting things, and one thing that was a spoiler that turned out to actually be incorrect, and maybe I just misunderstood what they were saying, because I'll kind of like skip or half listen once I realize, oh, I'm going to see this movie and it's about to get ruined, or at least the context for it.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that there wouldn't be any references to it as far like visually that you see. It's just like you would know it in some way, or it would be mentioned later or something. But then once I'm seeing like smoke, embers, yelling,
gunshots,
so many, yeah. But there's sprinkled in so minimally throughout. Every now and then I'll be like, okay, that's just one reference, and then at some point it's like, okay, once the movie goes on and wears on,
yeah,
there's a lot. I found it incredibly affecting the way they did it. And one of the things we talked about the other day, off mic, was me knowing where the film was set, and yet still looking at it through, at least like a partially objective, like an analytical lens of like, okay, how will this director introduce us to where we are? Oh, okay, there's no sign, there's no location, year at the beginning of it, nothing like that. And so he's kind of in some ways like easing into it, but also like backing a truck with no rear view mirrors into an atrocity, right? And then suddenly you're like, oh, this is where I am, this is where I've been this whole time. I didn't realize that. I found that there's this question around Holocaust movies, war movies about slavery, etc., of how much do you show, how much do you not show? Is it exploitive to show too much, to sensationalize it, to make it entertainment, or is that your duty? We talked about this with Oppenheimer. It's a question a lot of people had after Oppenheimer, is why didn't he show the bomb? Would it have been wrong to show the bomb? Would it have been less effective to show the bomb, etc.? I personally found this to be one of the most effective World War II movies. And I think there's just different taste when it comes to these things.
Yeah. And
some folks might watch this and say, oh, you humanized the monsters. How dare you? This is an evil movie. This shouldn't exist. This should be disallowed. I personally think it has the opposite effect. And I think if you're looking for moral good, one of the things you can do is say, how would this actually look like behind the scenes? How does someone get there? What is their family like? What little compromises is the wife making? And saying, oh, but we have a garden, and how much,
and a pool, and we have a
pool. A pool for the kids. It's lovely. I don't want you to get a new job. And there's other things at play that we're not seeing as well, which I don't want to ignore that. So like there's very little politics as far as like, we're not seeing anyone vote or say, oh, I support this person in that new, election, because there aren't really elections at that point anymore. We're past that point. There's been, a Nazi regime change. This dude is a higher up. We're assume he's bought in, or at least going along with it and complicit. I don't know the backstory, and I didn't look it up before the movie intentionally. At the end of the day, I find it very effective for us as just audience people to ask ourselves some of these questions. How did that happen? How did we get there?
Yeah. And
if it makes you angry to see, then that I think makes sense. But to say, I think this movie vilifies the person, but also doesn't just create a cheap, easy monster, but also vilifies the experience and the complicit nature of the wife character who's just going along with it.
Right.
And
right.
it shows some of the denial. One of my favorite characters is the grandma, because she at some point is choking on the smell and smoke.
Yeah.
And decides to, okay, fuck this, I'm out of here. This is a bit much. And she leaves a note, but then the daughter just can't even believe that her mother would do that. How dare she? That's so... And then throws the note in the incinerator, which is its own metaphor.
Yep.
But it asks these questions, and I think those are effective ways to demonstrate something, is by not necessarily showing it too much and kind of letting we've talked about it too with monster films, of by not showing the monster in some way is scarier. In some ways, because we're not seeing a lot of specifics, the understanding of what Auschwitz is looms larger in this movie, because it is literally just like looming like a smoke cloud in the background. And we as an audience know what it is. Like some of the facts of it. Another movie can show it very explicitly, and that can be very effective. And in this case, I think the way it looms so large, and yet we're focusing on the evil up close, I found that to be an incredible choice that was very effective. And I have one, it's a friend of a friend, but like they weren't okay after watching this movie. They had to like be checked on afterward. Like, we're dealing with our own atrocities in the world these days. Genocide is a word in the news today and yesterday, and will be again tomorrow. And so a lot of folks are in that mental headspace of, how do we confront atrocity as just a daily reality? And this movie was very much about that question.
Yeah. It's kind of weird timing for a movie like this to come out. Whether or not you will be willing to watch a movie like this or not. But like you said, it is very effective at causing something within you when you watch this film. And for me, yeah, it's highly effective when you don't show anything. We don't see the atrocities happening around them. We just hear it. There's it's like a play on senses, like we hear it, we see the smoke, or we see the ember glowing in the background or at night. We do see, again, people that they're being forced to help the family and those around them. We see them running around, but we never see whatever happens to any of them. We see the preparation for improving on whatever they're doing there, with the meeting on the furnace, the updated furnace plans and everything. And while we're not seeing all of this stuff, we're seeing this family being portrayed as a normal family, kind of like just a normal everyday family. And
I'm going to throw something in. I'm sorry. I'll make it quick. I agree it's a weird time to see this movie. It's basically always a weird time if we're paying attention to the news to see this movie.
Sure.
And I think one of the things it does is it asks us, how complicit are we when our phones are made in horrific sweatshop conditions?
Sure.
When the movie theater I'm going to is built on the land of a genocide. In fact, our entire country is just founded on genocide and then slavery, and then just a lot of things since then. We're funding these things throughout the world. I think one interesting thing it's doing is it's having us in the living room, but they're also in some way in our living room when we're watching this movie. Mm-hmm. And we ourselves as people, society, and it's asking us these like, well, what compromises do you make and have you made? And you said, oh yeah, I want a garden for the kids and I want the swimming pool. Yeah. I also really want an iPhone. And I'm not trying to say that I'm not complicit in that way. It did absolutely have that effect where you're relating to those characters in your own way. And every year that we pay tax dollars in this country, we pay tax dollars to some version of either like genocide or war crimes, at least my entire adult life. And I, basically as long as it goes back. And that's true for most folks, most countries throughout the world in some way or another, but especially here.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to when it comes to us watching this family, is because there's many ways we can just relate with this family, which is kind of weird because I don't want to relate to this family at all. But that's what this movie kind of forces you to do. You have a mom, like I said before, who's just really concerned about making sure the kids live a good life, they have a good home, and all that. And then when something impedes on that, you see how furious she gets. She doesn't understand, like, why do we have to change? Why do you have to move and take this new position? You know, and the father, he's just trying to do what he's told. You know, he's living a life where he's just following orders, like any soldier, right? Like anyone would do. But through this whole process, it's all about them. It's not about what's happening around them, which is even worse. You know, and that's why this movie is so terrifying in so many different ways. At the end, where he's having that weird reaction just out of nowhere, almost as if the future is poking him, saying, "This is how the world is seeing what you're doing right now." What I'm trying to allude to here is that there's this moment towards the end of the film where he is walking up a flight of stairs and he's visibly sick. He's like throwing up and he's getting like really, really, sick. And what Jonathan does is that he flashes forward to present time, because if you go to the area where Auschwitz is now, they turned it into a Holocaust museum. And to show the gravitas of the atrocities there, they would have exhibits of a glass window filled with shoes. And those are the shoes of those who were unfortunately, whatever happened, there happened. Personal effects. And what we're seeing is a group of workers cleaning up and making sure the museum is presentable for when they're about to open. And there's this brief moment where the main character, I want to call out the actor's name real quick.
Just to add while you're doing that, it's like a day in the life thing too of that museum, where they're showing them clean and get ready and prep the museum. Right. Like we're seeing a lot of like the normal daily house chores of the Nazi ass family.
Right. So it's Christian Friedel who plays it. The character's name is Rudolf Haas. So you see him kind of take pause and looking off into the distance because he feels like he sees something or he senses something, but there's nothing there. So it's almost like this weird effect. Like, is he coming to realization, or is the future kind of just be like, hey, this is the resultant after effect of what you're doing right now, and he's getting sick to his stomach about it all, which was so interesting. Like it smacks you right in the face.
Yeah, I'm looking up. I hadn't put together that this might be part of the metaphor. But so it's a real person, the main character, and he's tried and hanged in 1947. If I remember, he's grabbing his neck a couple times, which actually points to kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Another thing I think worth mentioning is in this movie how one of the questions it's asking is how we. I have to figure out how to put words to this, so pardon me while I try to do so. But like, when complicit, we repress how responsible we are and how horrible the atrocities are. And yet this movie is kind of showing how these things bring themselves to the surface anyway. So like the grandmother's character literally choking on the smell, and then the mother trying to like close the windows to keep the smell out, and yelling at one of the, I'm not sure if there's a more accurate historical term, but I'll just say slaves, like that are working for them from the camp, and yelling at them for leaving the window open, something like that. Right. And the mother is on edge more so. Like there's a crass way people say like, oh wow, they're being a real Nazi. Like in both ways she was, where she would just like yell at someone for a glass dropped, or someone dripped water after the pool and she's yelling about the mess. It's like
the dog pisses in the hall and no one's cleaning it up.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay, I was thinking it was water from the pool. Okay. Like they're the way that these sins, there's I think it's a Bible verse, but it's something I was told a lot growing up, that your sins will find you out, and that like the truth will always make itself known, essentially. And in a way that like we pay for these things, and there are symptoms and side effects from them, even if the family is kind of in denial and pushing down what is actually happening. So I thought that was another message that's right there in the movie, baked into what we're talking about. But it made me also think about, in the question of like, how complicit are we as people in modern day horrific events? And there's like an unhappiness in a lot of Western countries, and there's like these little things where This is a terrible example, but I recently saw the new Hunger Games movie, and I'm thinking of like the super rich who eat so much they make themselves sick, and then they drink something to like so that they can keep eating and shit like that.
Yeah.
That like it's like there's a moral toll or that has to be paid, and that the perpetrator is sometimes paying it. And I don't know how overtly it would make that comparison to our daily lives. That'll be another one of the things I think about. But I do think it's asking the audience to think about those kinds of things. Like when you close your windows at night, is there a reason why? In New York, an example I'm thinking of is in New York City, people talk about like, oh, you have to like look, like you'll smell homelessness, which is another just horrible thing. We just said, oh yeah, it's part of our daily life. Close the windows and nothing bad. Don't think about it.
Just keep walking.
Over it.
Don't look at
walk
them.
around
just
it.
Keep walking. Yeah.
Don't make eye contact. Yeah.
Right.
This is like it's obviously a different scale, a different problem entirely, but it's a similar kind of thing that myself and I'm sure other audience members are asking themselves afterwards. Like, in what ways am I also closing the windows so I don't throw up?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that this movie does a lot. It doesn't hand feed you what you're seeing. A lot of it you have to realize and determine on your own. And I think that's another kind of brilliance of this movie. It makes you think, and it makes you really like ask a lot of questions within you. If you're not in that mood, then probably you won't be into it. One of the things I talked to you about and I want to share here is that when I saw it, there was a couple of guys behind me, and they're very much the typical media critic kind of bros and all that. And when the movie was over, one of them goes to the other and says, "More like zone of lack of interest." Just like, okay, this guy was just not in the right mindset to be watching a film like this.
Fuck. He was like, I wish there'd been more action in this movie.
Right, yeah.
My God.
He totally missed a point on that. But as the movie is asking you to figure things out, there were a couple of things I couldn't. So I want to talk to you about, and maybe you can help shed some light. The girl with the potatoes. So there's a moment that's sprinkled out throughout where you see in weird like night vision style, and Jonathan does this a lot in the movie where he has like long shots and then fading into weird colors, or like a flash of white or a flash of red
in the middle was intense.
Yeah. And then he does this night shot vision kind of situation where we see a young girl going around the camp hiding potatoes in piles of dirt. And then there's one point where we actually see her in a home with what looks like to be her parents. What is that? Like, what is that referencing to?
Is it just saying what I'm reading factually?
Yeah.
A Polish girl who lives nearby sneaks out every night, hiding food at the prisoners' work sites for them to find and eat.
Okay. Well, if it's that simple, then that's that makes sense.
Well, then there's a question of like, why is he showing it in the way that he's showing it?
Exactly.
The negative imagery.
Right.
Is it showing that like, is it the opposite of what this family is doing? This is someone who is
like a contrast
helping. Yeah. Like literally, it's not even night vision. It's like the contrast is turned all the way up. Like if you switch what's that effect called? Like the negative.
The negative. Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to go ahead and just say. The explanation for that is it's the opposite of what this fucking family is doing. She's actually helping these people. And then we can read into it more of like, to what degree did that help? Is it in some ways like she should be, I don't think it's suggesting that she should be doing more, but it's almost like this is a daily life thing, and this is someone who's just making it more bearable for the people who are suffering, and it might be that simple.
Right.
This is also the kind of movie you could write a lot of papers about.
For sure.
Like someone could just study this movie for a while and the realities of what was happening, and the metaphors, like the red screen. I'm not sure what that means. There's a very simple, like, it's the color of blood, or you're angry, you're seeing red, or it could be something much deeper. And if it happens at the exact halfway point, I'm not sure, but it felt about that, etc. There's someone said it was 4 minutes off memory, and I don't think it was that long. But at the beginning of the movie, there's a lot of just black screen. At the end of the movie, there's a lot of black screen. Someone else said that A24 logo didn't move, which it normally does at the beginning of a movie when they show The ident.
I
Like,
don't remember. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
remember.
but there's a movie I saw recently, and it must be this one where I was like, oh, the A24 movie logo is different. They're not doing the whole.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's like little certain decisions that are made around this movie and how you show it, because there is like an artfulness to it, even though it's like day in the life. And in the making of the movie, just apparently hidden cameras around the house, and some of this is improvised, where they're just showing like someone walking down a hallway, and it's that simple. Now that was done through like, I'm going to say hidden camera techniques, but just setting up secret cameras basically, and just keep doing, go about your daily life.
Yeah, like the use of like setting up like static cameras just in certain areas, and you just see people, like you said, cleaning, sweeping, washing the dishes, gardening. In the one example we gave earlier, him going up and down the stairs, like it's just a lot of those type of shots. Who's the girl that shows up in that secret little bunker he was in, and then she was all naked? Like,
I think the implication is that he was I mean, it shows him buttoning his pants afterward. I think the assumption is that if it's not a sex slave, like a Jewish sex slave,
that's what I kind of thought.
Is it a prostitute? But my understanding was that she was being forced to do that,
right?
Something like that.
Yeah, because I was like, that was like so out of nowhere in a way, but it kind of rung to me. It hit me like, okay, so he's using this girl as a sex slave, and maybe she's getting some benefit out of it. You know, kind of like,
extra bread like, or something.
Right. Yeah. It's again, just another showcase of the monstrosities of these people. Another scene I also thought it was interesting was, and I don't know if you remember this, where Sandra's character, the mom, is smoking in the greenhouse, and she tells one of the workers, hey, why don't you just relax here, have a smoke too. And there's a long period of time just watching these two standing there, no conversation, and just smoking. You think they're fucking?
I'm sorry, I actually got caught up in one more detail, and I think we have to move on from these. But the young Polish girl in the film was inspired by a woman named Alexandria, an actual woman whom Glazer met during his research. As a 12-year-old member of the Polish resistance, she used to cycle to the camp to leave apples for the starving prisoners. As in the film, she discovered a piece of music written by a prisoner. The prisoner, Thomas Wolfe, survived the war. Alexandria was 90 years old when she met Glazer, and she died shortly after. The bike the film uses and the dress the actress wears both belonged to the actual woman. Wow. Jesus Christ. Wow. I was going to say, like, that is the kind of thing that would actually happen, but apparently that is an actual person that did that. Incredible. There's the making of this movie. There's some really interesting stuff I'm reading in the background here, but we're not going to get into all of it, of course. Okay. Which two characters are you talking about smoking?
Okay, so you totally didn't hear anything I just said then.
I mean, I heard the smoking part. We can move on if you want. It's up to you.
No, there's just I was just trying to be funny. Basically, there's a moment when Sandra Hüller's character, the mom, is in a greenhouse smoking cigarettes. She tells one of them to relax and just like, and literally you're there watching them for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, them just standing there smoking. And I was just alluding to the fact that they're probably fucking. So.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I had the same thought at some point. They're both having affairs. Yeah,
she looks like she's the type that, you know what, I need some stuff for me, and I'm going to get what I want, right?
Are you talking about her Anatomy of a Fall character, too? Maybe she's just good at playing that person. Maybe like, I had affairs, but I was honest about them.
They're the same person, which is hilarious. So yeah, I
mean,
obviously,
you want to talk about awardship for this movie?
Yeah, I do.
Does she get nominated? There's a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. There's a possibility she gets the very rare Best Actress and Supporting Actress movie for two different nomination for two different movies. Or we can have the fun thing where this one informs her nomination for Best Actress, and because she gets had both, she's just more likely to win or get nominated for Best Actress.
I think that's likely the case here. I think. Because of her strong performance here, but everyone's talking about her performance for Anatomy of a Fall. She's going to get nominated for that as lead actress. It's definitely going to help her. I heard one person say this was a better performance, and I'm not necessarily going to say that the Oscars would think that way because they really like it when you do a lot of acting. Mm-hmm. But in some ways, this was a subtler performance. It's supporting. It's asking her to do way less, but she does it very effectively. Right. Well, again, it just shows you the type of pedigree of an actress she is. You know, I just think for the type of movie it is, I don't think she will be recognized for this movie.
A24 is the boost in that way. They're just super fucking good at getting folks nominated, but I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
This movie on its own terms is less likely to get a lot of Oscar stuff than, I mean, Anatomy of Fall in its own little way. Like, it's not even getting nominated by France for international, but it is one of those weird ones. It could get director, it could get actor, it could get just like screenplay. It could get a handful of things without getting the international nom.
Yeah. And plus, a lot of people to this day are still talking about Anatomy of a Fall. Like, they're still raving a lot about that movie. I don't hear anyone really talking about Zone of Interest whatsoever.
It's interesting too, because if I mean, it did just come out and not even full release, right? But it's interesting too that if France had gone with Anatomy of a Fall, she would have 2 Sandra Hüller movies just competing against each other from 2 different countries.
Yeah.
But this one, I understand, is on the short list for international.
Well, that's funny, because we are going to be talking that in a minute for sure.
Yeah.
But before we venture off into that, I think the only thing left for us to really talk about here is our Letterboxd rating. What did you give this on Letterboxd?
4.5 off memory. Yeah.
Okay.
It might be a 5, but it's definitely in that same 4 to 5 range. A lot of like movies that are this acclaimed are going to just be 4, 4.5, or 5 for me for the most part. I also overrate movies compared to you and most folks. But yeah, 4.5. Just double checked.
Okay. I gave it a 4. It was really very, very powerful.
That's great for you.
Yeah. And I liked it too. So it's a 4 plus the heart.
You normally have terrible taste, so that's really nice to hear.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I'm known for. I'm known for the terrible hot takes and everything. It's funny. Like, I'm looking at my Letterboxd review, and my opening line is in quotes like "a Nazi slice of life," which is kind of says a lot there.
Yeah.
Also, one thing we didn't talk about, but maybe we could talk about as we go into the short list stuff, is cinematography. I felt like the cinematography of this film was well done. I thought it was really, really good.
If this was like a 2020 movie when there's not as much of the COVID year, this could be getting nominated in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, Jonathan Glazer is really nice with the camera, and really a really good and effective director. I'm glad that this movie happened, that he took this project on, and that it was that type of director. There's someone else who like brings out the comedy of the slice of life stuff. We're like, oh, who burnt the potatoes or whatever. And this one was very minimal, and it was effective to me in that way. And it was artful enough. And in some ways, I think that's why it's 4.5, not 5. But it's like, in some ways, it's kind of disaffected and detached from its own subject matter, which in some ways defeats the slice of life aspect of it, or like, oh, we want it to be relatable when they're doing the negative imagery or the screen of red, etc. I personally like those things. Someone made a criticism, which I actually disagree with, but I thought it was insightful at the same time, that this is kind of like you go to an art museum and there's the room with the screen, and you walk in and you watch it for a couple minutes. You're like, huh, nothing's really happening, but oh, let me read the description. Oh, I get it. And it could essentially be a 12-minute short film at a museum if it was just less of, or like hidden cameras but in the daily life, and you read the description, you go, oh my God, that's what I'm watching. Okay, you guys want to move on to the next one? I've just been in enough similar rooms that's exactly kind of what this movie's like. They were mad that it was so long, and they're like, it should have been that. I was like, no, it's more effective if you make someone actually sit in it for an hour.
Like linger in it.
Minutes.
Like you linger in what you're looking at, because that's what makes it more terrifying of what you're watching.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing too in real life. If you let someone just like, oh, you only have to experience this for a few minutes, then move on, and then get it out of your head and shake it off and then go look at something else. No, when you're sitting in it, it's forcing you to confront that reality.
Yeah. And again, like, you're lingering there, watching her with the baby, tending her gardening, as you're hearing stuff going on in the background. I mean, that is just like and she's just like treating it like a normal day. Like, that is just terrifying. So I get what they're trying to say. Like, if you cut this movie down and you shorten a lot of stuff, you cut things out, you can make easily like a 10-minute short film, and then end it with like the flashbacks of back and forth of future, past, like that. And do one of those things. Yeah. But you don't get the same effect as you get when you're actually sitting down and watching it the way it is now.
that works in a museum. This also works as a movie, and
Yeah.
it works differently. And that effect of sitting in it is its own, like, has its own effect that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, and maybe that's one of the reasons why some people didn't like it either, because it just made them feel uncomfortable, right? So, that, or you were just dense, like the guy sitting behind me.
There's a lot to be said about that. I don't want to be uncomfortable. Let's keep this job, honey.
Right.
But I'm not saying that those people are actually Nazis, but
right.
Yeah, there is the humans do have this really keen desire to be comfortable.
Oh yeah, as we've seen in another movie that came out recently with what's that? Leave the World Behind. That's another good example of something like that. So it's funny how we're getting these similar movies coming out around this time. And then we're going to get Civil War next year. So that's going to be great.
Perfect. And maybe a real one too. Maybe not just a movie.
Maybe. We'll see how things pan out. But we're definitely interested in seeing like what you all think about Zone of Interest. I will admit this movie is not going to be for everybody. But if you have the same sensibilities like Blake and I, and you are okay with watching like, very well done films, we're very curious if this is a movie that you have on your watch list, on your queue, or maybe you've seen it already. So definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments, or whether you're listening on the podcast, did it through the Q&A, or through the email address that we have included in the description of this episode. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Make sure to check out the link in the description of this episode or scan the QR code you see on the screen right now and find out how you can get unlimited data for only $15 a month. Save a whole ton of money on your monthly cell phone bill without sacrificing any of the quality. No contracts to worry about. You can cancel anytime, and the transferring process is so easy. You can keep your phone number or get a new one. Need a new phone? They got you covered as well. Over a year ago, I switched from Verizon without any hesitation, and it's not just because I found Ryan Reynolds to be a sexy mother. Shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Mint Mobile, but I guarantee you if you give Mint Mobile a shot, you'll understand why I made that switch, and you too will be a happy Mint Mobile customer. So once again, check out Mint Mobile, link in the description of this episode or QR code on your screen. Check them out. Remember the good old days? The days of big hair, neon colors, scrunchies, Jinko jeans, and iconic movies and TV shows? At 80sDs.com, they know how much you miss the 80s, the 90s, and all of the other E's. That's why they created a collection of the coolest, most iconic t-shirts from those eras. Their t-shirts aren't just nostalgic, they're also high quality, comfortable, and stylish. Whether you're a fan of classic 80s movies like The Breakfast Club or Ghostbusters, or just want to show your love for your favorite 90s TV shows like Friends or Baywatch, they've got you covered. And it's not just movies and TV shows, but you can rep the memories of your favorite brands, books, and video games. It's also not just shirts. You can also get all your favorite memories on hoodies, jerseys, and more. At 80sDs.com, they understand the power of nostalgia. That's why they created a shopping experience that takes you back to the decades you love. Browse their collection of unique, eye-catching apparel that will make you feel like you're reliving those iconic moments. They've got everything for any season and any type of occasion, so all your gift-giving needs are fully covered here. And if you check the link in the description of this video below, you will find a nice little discount code there for you to use to get some percentage off your order. And they also offer free shipping for orders over $100. That's right, free shipping over $100. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link found in the description to visit 80sDs.com today and find your perfect nostalgic fit. Last thing I definitely just wanted to cover real quick, we alluded to it earlier and just recently now, is the short list. Oscars just released their short list categories. So there are a total of, 10 categories that they announced for that are shortlisted. And I thought it would be interesting for us to just go over this so that we know at least what's the mindset of the Academy in these categories, so that when we start going through our own drafts and predictions, we know what to expect here. So why don't we start from the bottom and work our way up? And you have the list there in front of you, right, Blake?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Let's start off with visual effects. Now, this is something that kind of was interesting to me because of a certain inclusion of a film here. And I'll mention it as I read them out. So visual effects, we have on the short list, The Creator, Godzilla Minus One, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Napoleon, Poor Things, Rebel Moon Part 1, Child of Fire, Society of the Snow, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So that last one there is the one that kind of threw me off a bit because, in my opinion, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is an animated film. Visual effects usually implies special effects in live action films. So I'm very curious as to how that got included here on the short list. But reading this out, Blake, what stands out to you when you see this list, if anything?
Visual effects is always such a weird category because you can get some real blockbustery. No one's going to take this serious as an Oscars movie, but it can get this. And then sometimes you have the more Oscars movie like a 1917 that can get nominated for and win these types of awards.
Right.
Blade Runner 2049 is another example. There's always usually some mix of those in this category specifically. But you'll also get like a Phantom Menace or something like that here. Overall, I want to see Society of the Snow because that's also a shortlist for international feature, which I think is interesting. I don't know anything about that movie, but I do know I want to see it.
I don't think it's out yet. Isn't that another Netflix film, I think?
Not sure, but I know for sure it's not out yet. I checked even just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of Godzilla Minus One here, a movie we talked about and loved. Guardians, Indiana Jones, I could do without those types of nominations when we have enough quality. Give me Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. I think that's the kind of movie that deserves more. The Creator, visually stunning. Not much else to say about that movie. Napoleon being here is interesting. There's the good war scenes, and they're very effective in the ice battle specifically. Not much else to say in that regard, but I like that Poor Things is here. Give me that for production design over visual effects, but we'll see. Some of those were just like very artful paintings kind of in the background, but it didn't necessarily seem like effects the way that I would normally think of it for this category. But the one I know that you're going to want to talk about is the Spider-Man, which is definitely not how we normally think of this category.
No. And again, it's like I said, I consider that to be an animated film. So it's hard. It's weird for me to think of this being a visual effects nominee because I guess there could be an argument where you could say, well, animated films are kind of visually done and there's like certain people who work on those effects and things like that. But traditionally, I think this is always a category that is live action and visual effects works done to the live action movies, right? So I don't know if I will consider this to be a serious nominee contender in this category. Personally, I think, and this is going to shock a lot of people, especially with knowing what y'all think about my feelings on this movie. But I think Rebel Moon is a good contender in this category because that's one thing that Zack Snyder is very good at. He's great at special effects, and I think that he does really good. He does a really good job in this film. I think from all the other stuff here, The Creator, even though the movie was very lackluster to me, I think the special effects seemed very seamless in it. Like it didn't feel like I was looking at CG robots or CG ships. It looked like they were actually there to me. So I think that will be like an interesting choice. And yeah, even though Poor Things, everything's like paintings and all that. Just thinking on scenes like the huge boat, the cruise ship, and seeing it on the water. Now we know that wasn't really real, but that just looked fantastic to look at, and it was just very beautiful, very pleasing to the eyes. So yeah, so those are just my quick takes on all those things. It's just very interesting to see what's being considered here. Society of the Snow is actually getting a lot of mention, so I'm very curious, really, what that movie is going to be about when it comes out. But let's move on to sound. In the sound category, we have Barbie, The Creator, Ferrari, The Killer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. I think Zone of Interest is perfect in this category because when the sound is effective is when you are feeling terrified the most. And that's what we mentioned about hearing stuff happening in the background offshoot. There's this one particular scene where the boy is in his room, and you hear like an argument outside, and then you hear them yelling at someone who looks like they're running away or whatever, and then you hear gunshots, right? So that in itself is frightening. And the boy's just like in his room, la-di-da, I'm reading a book or whatever. It's just like the weirdest, terrifying thing. So I think that's like a great example there. Oppenheimer, I mean, it's the lack of sound that was really impressive when the thing was going off, right? During the big moment.
Funny.
So that's an interesting thing, you know, being able to play with that. Maestro, if we're talking about, you know, whenever there's music played, we discussed during our Maestro conversation in a previous episode that he did a lot of concert to film. So there's a very impressive sound work being done there. So those are the ones that stand out to me in this category. What about you?
I don't have much to add for this. I do like the more minimal ones where in some ways Zone of Interest, The Killer, Oppenheimer all playing with like negative sound or quietness in sound design. So I think that that's something that I'm excited by for this category, as opposed to just like somebody with so many guns at the same time, how they do that, or more about like what sound was added versus how was it added and sparsely, and that can be very difficult to do. Personally, I didn't find Zone of Interest to be that effective. It maybe because it's such a quiet movie, but when there was other sound, I feel like it really was like, okay, but listen to this part here. There's gunfire. You hear that, right? And not as subtle as I would have liked, where I would have almost been like, wait, what is that sound? Kind of thing. But that was just kind of my experience, and I was more critical of that movie than I even want to be myself. So maybe on a rewatch, I would actually realize that's an unfair criticism. But otherwise, again, this is another one of those categories. The big blustery blockbusters can get in there. And I personally prefer it when they don't, unless the sound is so good that it's like, okay, clearly this deserves it for this one. There's times that'll happen with visual effects. I'm personally, I should have mentioned this before, but Ant-Man not getting visual effects breaks my heart, because that was maybe the best visual effects of all time. With
some would say no, but
Corey Scott, is that the actor's name? The guy, the head in the machine. You're the
right, the MODOK character.
Thank you. Yeah. That's for that reason, and that should be who accepts the award too, is MODOK.
Just like that, yeah.
So I'll have exceptions that are just like little personal faves, or the sound is undeniably good in them. This one, I'm glad that there's less of that here. The main one in that kind of category is like Mission Impossible and The Creator, basically. So I'm happier if Creator actually gets 0 nominations, I think, even if it deserves them, which maybe it does. I think it does. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Moving on, we have live action short film, and I'll tell you off the bat, I haven't seen
all the short categories. We're not going to see until they release the
right.
And every now and then I'll just go through and watch a few of these, but it's usually after the nominations are released, and then the New York Times has one on their website, this one's on Vimeo, and you might need to go see these ones in the theater when they release that. So not really much to say here, unless you have on any of the short films, unless you got some thoughts that jump out.
Yeah, I'll just say this, like, just out of everything listed here, I'm happy to see Strange Way of Life and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. Yeah. When those came out, we couldn't stop talking about them in our episodes. I personally think Strange Way of Life has a good shot because of like how well directed that was, and how well the Pedro Pascal and Ethan Hawke performed in it. And it's just nice to see that Wes Anderson is getting a consideration for a possible nomination here. So I would call those two out for sure. But of course, I don't know anything about the rest of these movies here. So it'll be interesting to see what I have a chance to watch when they're available. Yeah,
I forgot we had talked about that with that episode, and there was a bunch of like someone's idea was like there'd be 4 Wes Andersons and the Pedro Almodovar movie, which obviously that's not going to happen. But there were others, which I'm not remembering right now, but
is
of like
one
a legit
of them Yorgos
director.
Lanthimos?
That's what I was thinking. There's a Yorgos Lanthimos Emma Stone one,
right?
That was at Film Festival, if I recall, and maybe maybe it's even here. I honestly wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know the name.
God, but there's a few that were a acclaimed director putting out a short film in the year 2023, and there was Charlie Kaufman was the other one I'm thinking of, with Jackals and Fireflies, which I loved, and I guess it's just online. I thought it was Netflix, but that's not here, and in my opinion it should be. But there was a version, where we had 4 or 5 of these were all acclaimed auteurs putting out a short film for whatever reason, and that did not happen, which I think makes sense. But
so the Yorgos Lanthimos short film he did with Emma Stone is called Bleat, and it's not on this list.
Not here.
So
okay.
that's
I'm glad you said Bleat. I was thinking The Shepherd, because it's something like that. Nope, it's just the noise that the sheep make. Okay. Cool.
Bleat. Moving on, we have animated short film. I mean, I don't know anything about these right now. I don't know if you have anything to say, if anything stood out, but this is again another one of those where if I have a chance to watch any of these, I'll check them out, but nothing really stands out to me, to be honest.
The one you might know or have even actually seen would be Once Upon a Studio.
Is that the anniversary Disney thing?
Yep. Did you see that one?
Okay. I didn't know. It's on Disney.
I'm putting it on my list. But that's one of those that I'll just watch and kind of put it on my little list. Right. I also know that War is Over. I'm not going to show you my apartment, but War is Over. I have a refrigerator magnet. I have a pin. I used to have a shirt even, but that's it's my little one of my Christmas albums that I forgot to do that. I put it up every year around the holidays because it's a Christmas vinyl record. So I have that on vinyl, but that's like a little favorite history thing. One of the things that I'm just like my little history nerd self enjoys. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to watch that for sure.
Moving on, this is an interesting category. I think one of the more interesting ones that was released is music original song. So I'll read these off real quick here. It Never Went Away from American Symphony, Dear Alien, Who Art in Heaven from Asteroid City, Dance the Night from Barbie, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, What Was I Made For from Barbie. Barbie has 3 freaking possible nominations here. Keep It Moving from The Color Purple, Superpower from Color Purple, The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot.
Oh, yeah.
High Life from Flora and Sun, Meet in the Middle from Flora and Sun, Can't Catch Me Now, Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, you just saw that. Wazazi, A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon, Quiet Eyes from Past Lives, Road to Freedom from Rustin, and Am I Dreaming from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The fact that Peaches is not nominated from the Super Mario Brothers movie is troublesome. I don't know why that movie was not nominated. It's troublesome because you couldn't. Everyone loved that song when that movie came out. I saw a video recently of a school performance that a child from one of my friend's children performed Peaches on the piano as their freaking concert. So the fact that that is not being considered it baffles me. I just don't understand that. But yet we have 3 from the Barbie movie here. I mean, that's insane. So that's my take on this category. What the fuck?
I am not mad that Peaches didn't make it. I remember when I watched the movie, I thought, oh, that's really good. And that's it. So Jack Black is a little played out. Let's go ahead and say that.
Wow. Wow.
He's also been copied and mimicked enough times that it's no longer as unique. Whereas
it's
like 20 years ago, it would have been, That's, I think, one of the problems with Peaches. But also it's so specific, which is one of my issues with this category. I wish they had, you almost have 3 different fucking categories. 1, in-credit songs. 2, songs that are so specific to the movie that they will always be only a reference to the movie. Like I'm Just Kin. It's one of the things I think that would be the winner, except it's not like a song you would hear on the radio and it could just be a song, which happens sometimes, right? Like Bond will be good at that, where it's got some Bondy vibes and feelings to it, but it can also just be a good ass song on its own without necessarily overtly referencing the main character, or in this case, one of the main characters. There are some of these here, like Dear Alien Who Art in Heaven. I recall that existing, and I think I even Shazammed it at the time, but I don't remember that song.
I don't remember it at all.
Usually I'll make a playlist of these and go through, and then the question is, are you judging it by the movie, which is a factor, the actual song itself? Is this like essentially a Grammy category on its own?
It's a performer,
like,
right?
What do you mean?
So wouldn't they usually, if it's like a well-known performer who performs the song, usually that is not a lock, but that is like definitely high consideration.
Oh, it helps. Yeah, for sure. The performance part of it, quality of the song, how well it fits in the movie, and then I think there's also a thing that people are tired of the in credits bullshit where
it only plays
now
in
that
the
we
end
mentioned
credits.
Yeah, like Road to Freedom from Rustin. That's maybe it's actually not in that movie, but it's a thing where you can just go, hey, Bruce Springsteen, you want to get a nomination?
Right.
You just want to throw this
like
in
Lady
the song?
Gaga.
You got any songs you're sitting on? Lady Gaga?
Right.
You want to throw it in the credit?
Yeah, you want a song on Top Gun Maverick? Here you go, end credits.
Barbie's a good example of not doing that, which I'm pretty happy about. But yeah, overall, the Hunger Games, I really like the music in that. And I was watching it thinking like, okay, there could be 2 or 3 from this movie. It's in ways it's not a musical, but the main character, the songbird, she's a singer and she sings throughout the movie. It's her little power. She wins people over with it. Are you joking?
No, I'm not.
Is it just because I didn't like Peaches? You're shitting on?
No. I'm actually being serious. Like that was the one thing that bothered me about that movie. It's like she's being devoured by snakes and she's still singing. Like I don't fucking get that.
It was a defense. She thought it was going to calm them down. Obviously,
she's singing. She's like pleading for herself. Like, la, 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 and then like all these snakes are surrounding her. I'm sorry, I wasn't a fan of that movie.
She's going down doing what she loves, dude. Any of us should be so lucky.
She could go down for sure.
Be like if you were dying, you would also want a podcast just right before on your way out. Like, I'm here about to interview some of these snakes.
Stay safe. Bye.
Stay classy, stay snake.
Stay snake. Yeah. And again, that was just me. But which one is the Catch Me Now song? Is that the one she sang the first time they met, or was it the one that she sang?
I can't remember. My memory sucks, but also I'm going through my head, and that's not the one I remember, but maybe it is, and that's just the title. I don't know.
The Wazazi song from Killers of the Flower Moon, is that cool kind of remix of the classic Indian chant with...
I don't know why you're asking me every specific song when I don't remember anything ever.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't remember any of the songs, even the movies that I've seen and that I remember very clearly. But if you want to go through and list each song and ask me which song it was,
quite all right. We can move on.
Do you remember?
That's fine. Moving on, we have music original score. So with original score, we have American Fiction, American Symphony, Barbie, The Boy and the Heron, Color Purple, Elemental, The Holdovers, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Saltburn, Society of the Snow, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and The Zone of Interest. There you go. So I don't remember there being much of a score in Zone of Interest, at least unless you count the screaming in the background. But anything here stand out to you right now?
Give me Poor Things. We talked about that specifically from that episode. And then a couple of these, it's the kind of thing that if I notice it, it'll usually stand out pretty heavily. And the other one worth mentioning is Killers of the Flower Moon with Robbie Robertson, who recently passed, which will definitely bring some attention to that performance and this legendary music person who's worked with Martin Scorsese a bunch, who's the front person of the Last Waltz, the band in The Last Waltz, the famous Scorsese documentary that got a lot of attention this year as well. So that'll definitely bring some attention to it. The other ones I don't necessarily. I know Boy and the Heron was effective. I remember enjoying that. Some of these American Fiction I actually enjoyed a lot. I Shazammed a couple of them, and I was surprised it wasn't just great jazz songs. Some of them were the score themselves. So very, in my opinion, high quality jazz music for that. I think Barbie is interesting because it has so many original songs and songs made for the movie, and then some pre-existing songs plus score in there. So But that's an example, along with others, where I'll get lost in it sometimes and not know, or I won't necessarily be keeping track of, while I'm also paying attention to the movie, the background noise, which can include just actual sound, plus original songs, plus songs that are thrown in, plus score. So this is another category that I'll need to review more and read about more. Off memory, Oppenheimer is
Ludwig. So I have a feeling he's going to have a strong possibility of getting nominated.
Goranson, right?
Ludwig Göransson. Yeah,
the second time working with Nolan off memory, but
I will say,
I think that's another.
There is
example
the one snub I would say here is actually from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, because that was Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Fascinating. That's where what they decided to put their attention on this year.
Right?
I love it. I hope they offered them a lot of money.
It sounded really damn good, though.
Sounded great. What a great movie. That's your favorite movie of the year.
Yes,
that is best picture
my all-time favorite.
What I'll say about Zone of Interest is it's Mika Levy, who worked with, I think it was actually Mika Levy's first score was with Under the Skin, a Jonathan Glazer movie.
Got it.
I knew Mika Levy as an indie pop artist with a band named Mikachu and the Shapes. But they also did Jackie. So we've talked about Mika Levy recently.
Yeah, right.
I can't quite remember what the other movie we're talking about, but has done a bunch of, in my opinion, fantastic work just over the years. Zola recently was another good example. But yeah, I noticed the score, and at some point I wondered, is this Mika Levy again? And yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason it didn't stand out to me in Zone of Interest, but yeah. Okay. Definitely some interesting here.
There were other things going on. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely other things that were
just a lot on your heart that night.
Oh yeah.
Just being shocked. Like, wait, I signed up for this movie? What is it about again? Oh my God. Yeah.
A huge part of me wished you were there with me, because I probably would have looked at you and be like, holy fuck, is this what this movie's about? And then we could have talked to the three bros behind us and talked about like lack of interest.
Great diss, terrible take.
Like,
well-written diss. Yeah.
That's his headline in the article he wrote that night.
You get a Letterboxd comment and people will be mad, but see if it'll just get 10,000 likes for being clever.
All right. Next up, we have makeup and hairstyling. So the films here: Beau is Afraid, Ferrari, Golda, Killers of the Flower Moon, Last Voyage of the Demeter, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. I think you and I both agree that Poor Things is a huge contender, I think, in this one, with the amount of stuff happening there. I would also even say Maestro, because of Bradley's transforming into Leonard Bernstein and kind of the stages of his life, from a younger version to his older version. We mentioned before, as Blake, kind of drops his jaw on the floor. We kind of mentioned how sweaty that movie is, and definitely that has a lot to do with like what's going on with makeup and everything. But those are the main things that really stand out to me personally. What about you? Again, it's interesting to see Society of the Snow here. So,
yeah, that might actually we're seeing it so many other places.
Yeah,
that might be a huge favorite for international.
Yeah,
especially if Zone of Interest is getting attention elsewhere or other movies, which we'll see sometimes too. They'll go, oh, we're rewarding it over there, so we can give something else international. I'm so curious how that'll play out.
Right.
Give it to Poor Things right now, in my opinion. Once I see Society of the Snow, I might change my answer on that. It is really interesting seeing it getting shortlisted so many places, but I think in this category specifically, between Willem Dafoe, Emma Stone, and others, just incredible work.
Moving on, the next one, international feature film. So this is a category that I think you and we can agree on that we have a lot to catch up on in this category. But just to quickly go down the list, Amerikatsi from Armenia, The Monk and the Gun from Bhutan, The Promised Land from Denmark, Fallen Leaves from Finland, The Taste of Things from France, Teacher's Lounge from Germany, Godland from Iceland, Io Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days from Japan, Totem from Mexico, The Mother of All Lies from Morocco, Society of the Snow from Spain, Four Daughters from Tunisia. Sorry, but reading is fundamental. 20 Days in Mariupol from Ukraine, and Zone of Interest from the UK. I will say from this list, the movies I really am dying to see is Fallen Leaves, Perfect Days, and Four Daughters. And of course, Society of the Snow. Those are the main movies I really am very curious in seeing. What about you?
Same, plus give me Americazzi, El Capitano, The Mother of All Lies. There's Four Daughters, but that one seems tough in certain ways. But I want to hear more about it and then maybe see it. But just based on the few things I saw, that one seems really interesting to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of those every single year, which a lot of these either aren't on streamers, won't come out here until May next year or something. Right. Or they try to throw it on an indie theater for 1 week before the Oscar or something. We'll see. So some of these we've had a chance to see, but one problem with me being an AMC A-lister and me watching so many movies is I'll use so many of them on the A-list, and then I won't want to buy a $20 ticket to IFC Center. And so I end up missing out on some of these, but Fallen Leaves has definitely been on my list as well as a few of the others.
We'll see what happens there. Next one, documentary short film. I won't go through these. Just a quick glance. I'm not familiar with any of these. I don't know if anything stands out to you.
I like bears.
Okay.
Just in the
general?
animal. Yeah.
Well, we had fun with Cocaine Bear earlier this year, so that was a lot of fun. Is that the same? Is that the same film?
If so, it should win.
Okay, then that's a clear winner right there. I'm good with that.
This one is like we could watch 20 movies right now that are on the short list, or we could wait till they narrow it down to 5 and then definitely watch those. Especially documentary short tend to, and I'm not seeing as many this time, but unless I'm misreading some of these, but like the ones where you are watching some of the most troubling documentary footage possible, where you're like watching someone starve in real time or watching like survivors of an atrocity. These are very important, but also they can be very unsettling. So it's the kind of thing that you might need to dole out or be careful of, or wait until you have the mental and emotional capacity to handle that type of subject matter, if possible. And sometimes there's even like triggering content in there that literally some people should never watch, or else it will actually have sincere health ramifications. So that's one of those categories that I'm usually dreading a bit. And some of them are incredible, and some of them are powerful and usually always worthwhile if you can stomach it and withstand it. But that's not the category that I'm usually going to go poking around and looking for a nice time while I'm just throwing something light on.
Right. No, definitely. And that also leads into this final shortlisted category, and that is a full documentary feature film. Again, I won't be reading these out. A lot of these I know of, but just haven't seen. The only one I have seen is still a Michael J. Fox movie, which is extremely...
You did see?
I did see that, yes.
Oof, okay.
Extremely...
Is it a crier?
What's that?
Is it a crier? Is it a sad one or more?
It can be. It can be. Okay. Yeah. Because,
but it's like affirming in its own little way. Is it one of those like soul affirming?
It's also uplifting. It's very uplifting because of like how he's fighting his illness and how he's using it and his celebrity to help spread the word and raise money for research and everything like that. So it's sad because you especially someone like me who grew up watching his movies at that same period, in the 80s. I remember watching Family Ties every week on TV. And then, when Back to the Future came out, Teen Wolf, all those things, I remember seeing him at his best and then just seeing his deterioration in time, which is like so sad and to see. So they show a lot of his rehab and his, and everything. It's just very heartbreaking. But at the same time, uplifting because of, he doesn't let him get it. He doesn't let it get him down. And he's constantly fighting. And I think that's just, it's great. So if you were to ask me, I think that it has a huge potential for a major contender in this category, especially since it's one of their own. It's a Hollywood actor that this movie is about. a beloved actor for many years. So that could be a major contender in this category. But I'm curious as to how the other ones are. I don't know if anything else stands out to you here.
There's a couple here we're also seeing an international, 20 Days and Mariupol, as well as, I'm going to have to find it again.
Four Daughters.
Thank you. Four Daughters. So those are definitely ones to pay attention to when they're double nominated. It takes a special kind of movie to make it in both. And a lot of these aren't documentaries, so they wouldn't even be eligible to be in both, or international, so they wouldn't be eligible to be in both. But to be such a quality documentary that you're also an international is really what's rare. So yeah, similar to you, I haven't seen enough of these, but now that these are shortlisted, they'll definitely get more attention. And if they get nominated, there'll be that time, especially when I think about living in a big city, there will be a lot of them playing the nominated ones. Eternal Memory has a showtime tomorrow at MoMA. Between us, I probably won't be there. I love movies so much that I usually don't want to like hate movies by forcing myself to see every single thing that's ever been shortlisted, because then I get nauseous by the time the Oscars roll around. I'm like, I just can't wait till 2026. Please just get it over with. Why do I do this? But nonetheless, it's nice to see what's been eliminated and some of the conversation congealing around it. One of the things we noted is if there are storylines, it's like Society of the Snow stands out as more interesting. Like based on this, it would be silly to not put it down for international. And then another thing that we talked about is Barbie not being in for hair and makeup. There's the times where you'll see something, and a question is like, if America Ferrera was nominated for supporting, this is going to be a great night for Barbie. People are loving it more than we thought. We see that every year with some, or this didn't make it and it was on the fence, so this probably won't be a good year. This is not a good sign for Barbie as far as people taking it seriously. I don't know. There are certain ways in which some of these categories there will be a committee who shortlists things or narrows them down, and I honestly don't know, and it might even depend on the category. But maybe that's a more snooty committee, but the actual, once you give it to the voters at large, a movie like Barbie does better, but you have to make it out of the committee to be a nominee. And I'm not even saying that that's how it works. I just know that there's some categories where that's how it works. I'm not even sure about that one. But with those sometimes there's politics that will come into play and things will get eliminated for the certain biases beforehand, et cetera. So it doesn't necessarily tell us definitively that Barbie will have a bad nomination morning, but I wouldn't be shocked as of now.
Yeah, I think Barbie still has a good shot in being well represented at the awards.
It'll get a lot of nominations for sure, but will it be up there with Oppenheimer and get like 11, 12, 13 noms?
I know for
this makes us think no.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, you do know? You know that?
Well, sorry, I shouldn't say I know for a fact, but my strong gut says that's definitely not going to happen. But I think not getting nominated in multiple categories, but being nominated in the major categories is a huge difference. And I do think Barbie will get represented in some of the major categories, like leading actor. I think Ryan Gosling is going to definitely. Is he going to be considered for leading or supporting? So supporting. I think he's going to have a strong case there in supporting actor. I don't think Margot Robbie is going to be nominated, to be honest with you, because the fact that you ask anyone who's seen that movie, they said that Ryan Gosling kind of shined over her as far as performances go. So I don't think that bodes well for her. But I do think Greta Gerwig is going to get considered for directing, and her and Noah may be considered for screenplay. And I think that's going to be huge for them, to be honest.
Yeah. And
I do think they're a lock in original song. I do think.
But there's that shitty thing that can happen. I think Dreamgirls was an example I was looking at the other day, just going through Oscar history in my free time for some reason. But you can have 2 or 3 songs from the same movie, and then they kind of cancel each other out. They split the love, and then it goes to some fucking Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget Part 7 or whatever the fuck, which we'll see in animated sometimes. Like, there's ways that vote splitting can really screw up. What the best is, and like we need ranked choice Oscar ballots in all these categories.
Now I want to see a movie called Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget.
Like Part 7, Blake's Nightmare Returns.
Oh man, that's gonna be great. But you know what's gonna be fun is when we actually sit down and actually go through our Oscar draft. So again, just a reminder, our second episode of the new year in January, we're gonna be sitting down and doing our Oscar draft, where we're gonna create our own nominations list separately, and then we'll see how our luck runs when they make the major announcement of what is nominated from the Academy, and we will be live streaming that as we did last year. So make sure to stay tuned for more details on that. And yeah,
we're doing a full contest. We have to talk about what the stakes are, but you still haven't made me pay for my losing the summer blockbuster contest. Thank you very much. I'm not suggesting that you do this, but I will say you missed the Iron Claw opening night, and I didn't mention it because I was worried you'd make me. I lost, so the contest was I have to dress up for an opening. Yeah. I was worried you'd make me just go shirtless to the movies in this 30-degree ass weather we're having here. So good luck.
No,
remembering to cash in on that.
It was either that or maybe dress up like a giant lobster claw.
A Wolverine. Oh, okay. I was thinking a Wolverine claw. Just one iron claw. If you have it, I'll wear it, even though the movie already opened. People like, fourth day and he's doing that?
Right.
Does he even know what this movie is? Do you think this was a Wolverine sequel?
What the hell? This is not Comic-Con. What's he trying to do here? Maybe this is a Christmas present. Maybe I'm just like letting you off the hook on that. So Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you out there too, because as we close out this episode, like we mentioned at the top, this will be our final episode of this year, and we're looking forward to coming back strong and ready for 2024. But as we close things out here, Blake, where can people find you online? And any last comments and thoughts as we ring out the year here to a close?
I'm terrified. Honestly, it's going to get real hairy.
What?
I'm going to get in the weeds. I'm going to see so many movies in the next couple months, dude. I'm going to throw up on one of these episodes. I'm sure of it. Especially if we live broadcast the nominations like last year. But yeah, find me on Letterboxd, where you'll see me give 4.5 stars to both the movies we talked about today, and you'll see me just plugging away at some of these shortlisted things and just like, oh, Blake added 8 short films at 4 a.m. because he decided instead of sleeping, he should just watch as many of the ones that are on the New York Times website as possible or whatever. So yeah, that's a place to follow this upcoming frenzy of activity. And I am near 3,000 films. So
unbelievable. We should have like a celebration once you hit that landmark, and they should have a badge that you can like kind of promote on social media. 3,000 films.
Yeah, that's true. In the top 0.5% content creators, not on OnlyFans, but on Letterboxd. Let's go.
That's right. As far as, the channel and myself, you could find LOWKEY GEEK on Letterboxd, of course, Twix, Instagram, most importantly on YouTube. Make sure if you want to see the clip outs of this show, if you want to see other reviews and other content that we do for the channel, make sure you're subscribed to the LOWKEY GEEK channel there on YouTube. That is also where we'll be live streaming our live reaction to the nominations once they are announced in late January. So make sure to find us there. And of course, on this podcast platform that you're listening to us to, make sure you spread the word. If you haven't done so yet, leave a nice rating, a comment, leave us a question in the Q&A, or shoot us an email at the email address listed in the description of this video. Check out our affiliate partners if you want to help further support this channel, help us grow. And lastly, I want to thank all of you for listening and all of your support. We have seen tremendous growth on the podcast this year. We're at, I believe as of today on Spotify, we're at 27 followers. So big ups and shout out to all of you there. Really, really thank you for all of that. And for those of you who left nice ratings for us, really appreciate it. And we help to keep this momentum going into the new year. But all of this could not have been done without all of you and your support. So thank you so much for all of that. So with all that out of the way, I'm Renee. That's Blake. This has been Movie Time. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Merry New Year. However you want to say it. Until next time, until 2024, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Catch you all in the new year. All right, peace out, everyone. Bye-bye.